right, welcome to another episode of LogiCast. My name is BlankaKong. I'm joined by Hotter Wolf and Gunner Eos today. So we got a three-man show lined up. Today's topic is going to be primarily about indie games, modern indie games, and modern AAA games, and how they stack up against each other, and specifically how indie games, quite frankly, are just better than fucking AAA games. Um, so I'll start things off, and I'll say that I haven't played every indie game out there, and I haven't played every AAA game out there, but I'll say that AAA games have, in my opinion, become very cookie cutter and just kind of samey. Um, and have become more interested, or at least the developers seemingly have become more interested in like narrative and like becoming more cinematic and hiring like these big names to kind of push their game to the mainstream audiences. And like, I think the gameplay innovation and the gameplay integrity kind of takes a hit. And when it comes to indie games are kind of like what AAA games used to be, where it's just about gameplay and deep gameplay mechanics and longevity with gameplay. Um, Notice I used the term gameplay like three times there, right? Because it was about the gameplay and not about some political message or some, this grandiose story or whatever. Like, and listen, I like stories in video games. I think a well told story and a well written story and a well executed story can can take any medium a long way, including video games. But a game at the end of the day, a video game is played for the experience, for the action of you doing this thing or these sets of things in this specific order, and there's something fun about that, right? So I don't know. Indie games to me have become my main kind of like outlet. I look at AAA games and sometimes I'll go, "Oh, that's interesting," um, and I might get it, but most times I don't. So, like for example, Callisto Protocol came out a few weeks ago, a few months ago now, or about a month ago, something like that. And I was super excited for it because we don't really get a lot of horror games anymore, and it got a lot of really bad reviews, and apparently the performance wasn't up to par, and like there wasn't a lot of boss battles in it, and it was just kind of like just a really bland experience. And I was like, it's really unfortunate, right? And then just recently, a friend, a coworker of mine, had put me onto this game called Project Zomboid, which is an indie title that's been in development for like 10 years, and it is super deep and like super expansive, and I've got 60 hours in the game and I've barely scratched the surface, which is like insane to me. And it's like, this is a fucking indie game with like EverQuest graphics. It's like, why is this so much better than almost every other game I've played in the past year? How is that even possible? And it's possible because the people behind it are passionate about it. That's really what it is, and it's less about making as much money as possible and more so about developing something really cool. So I've said enough. What do you guys think?
Um, yeah. I mean, I pretty much agree with everything you've said. I can't find a lie in this statement. Pretty much my gaming, if I'm gonna buy a brand new game, 9 times, yeah, I'll say 9 times out of 10, it's a indie game. It's not a AAA game. I think the last last game that I bought that could be considered a AAA game would be Pokemon, Scarlet in my case, because after that I bought Crisis Core, but I don't consider Crisis Core a AAA game. I consider it a AA game. So yeah, it's been a while since I've bought a AAA game, but I've bought a bunch of indie games. Some of the ones that are on my Switch in recent months were Dead Cells. That's not exactly new, but it's an indie Castlevania roguelike game. Very popular. I'm just late to the party, but Dead Cells and a great fucking roguelike if that's your thing. Chained Echoes. Some of you watching, definitely people on this panel, and some of you that may have watched and listened have heard me sing the praises of Chained Echoes before. An amazing RPG. If you're looking for a game that pays homage to old school Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger, check that out. One Step for Eden. Again, not exactly a brand new indie game, but it's kind of like a roguelike, another roguelike game. I tend to gravitate a lot towards roguelikes because they're easy to play and easy to put down and easy to pick up. But this one simulates Mega Man Battle Network and how its combat is how its combat works. And until recently, when Capcom announced that the Battle Network collection was coming to Nintendo Switch, I pretty much assumed Battle Network or that type of combat system is dead. So I was like, all right, fuck it. Here's these guys at One Step from Eden are giving me what I want. And then Blasphemous is another one that I really like because it's just a done. It's just a well done game. It's another Castlevania like game. This one is more traditionally Castlevania, so very Symphony of the Night like. But the art style, the storyline, like this is like I guess slightly above the pixel art from Final Fantasy. It's not sprites, but it's pixel art, and they just do it so well because that's something that's been lost with video games, especially with AAA games. Everything's all about photorealistic graphics. They have to look just like humans. The world has to respond just like it does in the real world. And it's just like that's, in my opinion, that's not what I play video games for. I play video games for escapism. I play video games to see and experience things that don't exist on planet Earth. Yeah, I granted with Final Fantasy 16, I still can't chuck fireballs. That's a thing we can't do in our world. But other than that, 16 just feels so. It just feels so realistic. It's like all the characters look like, hey, you know, this guy put him in some cosplay armor, and you could see that guy in the street. Like that's not what I play video games for. So some of the indie games that I mentioned, they kind of bring me back to that. They bring me back when the games were like super fantasy and this is something I can't do in the real world, and they don't have photo. None of these games that I just mentioned have any type of photorealistic graphics. They're all pixel art style, or maybe they're mostly pixel, but kind of like definitely not to the level of things like Forspoken and God of War and Final Fantasy. And for me, that doesn't matter. I don't need that. I don't need these fancy graphics. So, AAA stays losing in my household anyway. So, not to say that I won't buy AAA games if they're worth my time. That's how I rate it. If they're worth my time. As of the filming of this video, Fire Emblem, that's that's a AAA game. That's a game that I plan on buying like day one. I've seen and read plenty of good things about it, and I'm confident unless we end up with a situation where this game runs at one frame, but I don't know, anything's possible. The game seems competent enough that you are worth my $65. So I'm gonna give him my $65. But that doesn't always happen. We've had too many Babylon's Falls, too many Anthems, too many Cyberpunks, where it's just like, oh, you know what? When it comes to you guys, let me just hold off. So yeah, definitely I'm a huge shill for indie games because most of the time they just give me a solid gaming experience and they don't try to tout themselves out as some life-changing, life-altering experience. It's like, bro, I'm just a game. Can you give me $30? I'm like, all right, cool. I'm down with that. So, and before I hand it off to Wolf, indie games tend to be reasonably priced. Like indie games and the developers know it's like my game is only a $30 game. It'd kind of be ludicrous to ask $65 out of you when I can. Resident Evil 3, I'm gonna throw it out there, to this day is not a $65 game, but they charged $65 for it. Yep, Kong is being very generous. He's saying 40. I said 50, but he's being he's being less. You know, I guess I'm the one that's being more generous. But yeah, okay. So these indie guys, they know what their games are worth, and they know what's respectable and reasonable to price their games. AAA just they fucking they think this shit doesn't stink, so it's worth $65. But anyway, that's my rambling. I'll pass it off to Wolf, and he'll give us his thoughts.
Okay, so I can't say I play indie games as often as you gentlemen do. I don't have anything against indie game whatsoever. My experience with indie games, the most experience I've ever had with indie games was on the 3DS. So when the 3DS first came out, at that moment it was having like it was struggling. It went through what the PS4 5 is going through now, where there just wasn't a lot of strong titles on it, a bunch of remakes or a bunch of video games that we've played already. Like I think the 3DS in its early days was what? Ocarina of Time, Dead or Alive, Street Fighter 4, games like that. Which to me while they're all respectable games in their own sense, Dead or Alive and Street Fighter for me was already played on the PlayStation with arcade stick, and I've played Ocarina of Time a gazillion times. Having
Yeah.
it on the 3DS wasn't a very, like it wasn't an excitement factor. So I had turned to, the indie games that you could download on the 3DS, and that shit was a blast for me until the 3DS started picking up and, dropping more solid titles on the, I guess, AAA department. But really, with indie games, I don't mind playing them. I do, like for my son, I try to find indie games for him to play instead of like these big AAA ones. But his mother doesn't listen and she ended up downloading Fortnite for him. So that's that.
Oh, fucking GG.
Yeah, yeah, that's that. But either way, like I had bought Ninja Turtles for the both of us. I haven't started it yet because I wanted to play with him. I believe Shredder's Revenge is considered an indie game.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
I believe it is.
mm, yeah. So, and I would like to explore more indie games. Like I would have bought that Castlevania game, that Castlevania-like game with the girl, but Esoteric was telling me that it had frame rate issues on the Switch when it first came out. I forgot the name of it now. I can't remember it.
Bloodstained Ritual of the Night.
Bloodstained, yeah. Actually was interested in buying that, but at the time I was told to hold off because the Switch just couldn't run it. It wasn't running well on the Switch, and I don't like playing those games on bigger consoles. If I'm gonna play a game like that, I want to be able to sit back and lay in my bed and play it, or sit in a chair, or just like be more comfortable than sitting up
Yeah. Oh yeah.
on a TV. Um, so I don't really have much experience with indie games, but I do hear you guys always praise these indie developers for the games that they put out. And listening to the two of you talk, I think what Kong said in the beginning is stands true, where a company, once they hit that certain threshold in popularity, in investments, or people who's willing to invest into them, big gaming companies that's willing to pick them up or buy them out, they get this, like their ideals change. And it's no longer about putting out good content for people to enjoy. It's now about putting out content in to get people to spend. That gets lost in translation versus AAA games and indie games. Like the indie developers are still dudes that's like, yeah, we want to play video. We love video games. We want to make a video game. We want to put it out there so people can enjoy this video game. Versus, well, we have 10 months. We have this much money invested into it. Um, get this out. You know, certain political things. It's big. It's the hot shit right now. Let's put that in there. Let's bend our knee and and push this out. And for that, we get these lackluster titles, and we with the pretty graphics and the overly informational screen, um, that's just like a clutter instead of allowing us to enjoy the actual gameplay. Or it's just these unoriginal, uninteresting, or just boring main characters. That's just not like the only reason why I know about Alloy is because of how her character came in based on what is the societal standard and what is video games trying to do with main characters now. That's the only reason why I know Alloy. I don't know I don't know or care what she's about. I don't know or care what her story is. I don't know or care, like if she's had any real struggle in her video game. I don't care about that stuff because for me, it's not interesting. It isn't, you know. So like these video games coming out now, there's nothing really popping about them. Nothing pops, nothing. It's just like same shit, different toilet, over and over and over again with these AAA titles. But the indie games, and I was looking at some, and I think what's that one? Gunvolt. I
Ah,
don't know if
yeah.
it's considered an indie game now anymore because there's a lot of them, and popularity for it did explode. But when it,
I'd consider.
yeah,
I personally would still consider it indie. It's just a very popular. It's a well-known indie. It's like your Shovel Knight, your Hollow Knight.
mhm.
Um, it's well known, but I don't think they've hit that point where it's all of a sudden like, okay, now next one we're using mocap actors and it's gonna have a gripping storyline that will
And it costs
question.
$1 billion to make.
Yeah. I
Mm,
think they've still because I know the games come out because, like I said, there's a lot of them,
mhm.
or a decent amount, I should say. But I haven't heard anything from the community about, oh my God, they sold out. Now Gunvolt is diminished to a bumbling idiot who just takes the lead of the strong female Gunvolt we added. No, it's just like, hey, we got a girl, we got a guy, we got all these different characters. Who do you want to play as? Go play. So I've still heard good things about it. So I would consider it, I guess, a well-known indie, but I would still classify it
Mm.
as indie personally.
Okay, so I played the first two Gunvolt games, and I got the same excitement that I got from playing the first two Mega Man X series. Obviously, the two games are very similar to each other.
Hmm.
Um, and Gunvolt to me was amazing. Now, I have not kept up with the series, which I should, because their games is like $15, $20 at most, which is a third of Fire Emblem,
Yeah.
right? Um, for example, or a third of The Last of Us. Anyways, so it's just like these are gamers making games, and
Yeah.
that's what it is with indie games. Um, so listening to you guys and what you guys post, like I said in another podcast, a lot of my games is based on what you guys play. So if I hear you guys is talking about something and it seems like, okay, well, Gunnar is really pushing like how he loves this game. Or when I see him log on to the Switch and I see him constantly loading up the same game, it becomes interesting and I'll probably pull up a YouTube video like, what is this game about? Same thing for Kong when you guys talk about video games. Like I listen or read a lot of what y'all video games that y'all praise, and I get interested because it's like if we all have a very similar um interests in certain video games, then obviously then maybe the game that Kong is playing right now is something that I can play, which could give me a break from Scarlet, or it can give me a break from Elden Ring, or it can give me a break from whether any other else AAA title that I would play. Um Street Fighter, for example, stuff like that. It will just break away from it. And I've played indie fighting games or fighting games that's not so out there. And it's like, these have better mechanics than Street Fighter, King of Fighters, Tekken, like they're just fun. It's just fun, and
Crazy,
that
huh?
yeah, it's crazy. And so yeah, that's my thing. I'm not so educated in what actual indie titles are out there, what is actually good to play, but I'm open-minded to trying new ones and um, seeing, like what I could play. I'm thinking about honestly playing Tunic because I've seen Esoteric play Tunic so much, and it gives me a very Zelda, old style Zelda feel to it. I don't know if that's exactly how the game plays, but I'm
Um,
interested in trying.
yeah, I mean, in terms of its kind of like feeling, it definitely feels like Legend of Zelda, where you start off Legend of Zelda and they throw Link in that field and they go, "There you go, have at it," and you're like, "Have at what?" And I'm like, "I don't know, figure it out." It's like Tunic is very like that, but it still gives you enough that if you use more than one brain cell, you'll you can like use the tools that they give you and kind of like the hints that are presented in the overworld, and you can figure out where to go. So it's not so blind playthrough as the first Zelda game, but it definitely plays homage to that for sure.
So it's real similar to what's the one with the light and dark world?
Link Between Two Worlds
A
or
Link Between Two Worlds or A Link to the Past.
Link to the Past. Yeah, Two Worlds is the sequel. Yeah, Link to the
Mm.
Past.
It's more like that, where it's like, okay, well, here's the world, you're gonna figure it out, but here's a nudge here and there just
Right,
to
right.
guide you along.
Yeah,
Makes sense. Yeah.
it's not fucking Horizon where you got fucking Aloy going, man, I should shoot that weight so it falls and makes the bridge I need to cross. It doesn't do that like, hey, you're so stupid, here's the solution to the puzzle. It goes, all right, I presented you with the tools. You're a big boy. I hope you know how to read. You can do this.
Like, I give an example. And the funny thing is, not even Ocarina of Time did this, but anyways. So my son was watching, he likes to watch people play video games on YouTube and stuff like that.
Mm.
So he was watching a YouTuber who luckily is kid friendly playing Spider-Man Miles Morales. My opinion, that's a AAA title.
Oh no,
It's
yeah,
just my opinion. Okay.
100%. No.
And everything that Miles is saying, he's talking to himself out loud, but he's giving the player, he's telling the player what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So like the battle starts, and I guess he unlocks some stealth drones or something like that, and he's like, anyways, the cutscene goes, he kicks the door open, he runs into a bunch of enemies, and then he screams out loud, "It'd be a great time to use stealth drones right now." And it's like, first and foremost, this doesn't even make any fucking sense because you just told 7 of your enemies you're about to use stealth drones. That didn't make any sense already, right? And on top of that, the player, you basically said, "Hey, idiot, here's an easy way out."
Like, you want to know how to beat the guys? Use the stealth drones. Obviously, I'm heavy emphasis on stealth drone.
And I face palmed because it's just like, where's that love of having the player figure out how to get out of a situation? Where's the critical thinking aspect
Mm.
in the video game? And even though Navi was very annoying in Ocarina of Time, she gave you hints, but she never, other than the Ganon fight, where she told you to use the light arrows or to lure him so that Zelda can use light arrows, she never really told you what to do when fighting a boss. She would say, like, oh, that eye looks peculiar on the boss, but you'd had to figure out how you were going to hit that eye or how you were going to make that enemy available to hit the weak spot. She
Right.
never outright said, hey, maybe you should use this bow and arrow you found 2 rooms ago and poke him in the eye with it. She never did any of that. And I'm getting a lot of video games that do that now.
Yep. The,
And Go on.
No, because back then, the game developers, they trusted their audience. They went, you know what? We're pretty confident that the general player who plays this game is competent and smart enough to figure out, I got a bow and arrow after beating the mini boss. I had to use the bow and arrow to hit targets to open doors throughout the second half of the dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, just maybe, I have to use a bow and arrow on the big monster's open eyeball. Like, it sounds childish when you point it out, and it's like, well, obviously, you idiot. But it was just like, no one told you that. You had to figure that out yourself. And now, like you said, you got modern video game characters just having mental instability and just talking to themselves on a regular basis just so they
Yeah,
can give you the player a hint.
right. You see, like what you explained there was teaching through gameplay,
Right, right.
right? Video game modern AAA titles don't do that anymore,
Yeah.
but indie games do. Like
Yes.
um when I was looking at videos for the Ninja Turtle stuff, none of it is explained to you on really how to deal with like crowd control characters or how to deal with the crowd control, because apparently the game is very hectic. And
Mm,
there are characters who's more focused on single targets, and there's more characters who's focused on, like a lot of crowd control in the video game. They don't say Leonardo is good at crowd control. You learn that from his move set. Simply playing Leonardo, you'll learn that he's crowd control. Simply playing Raphael, you'll know that he's very good at single target.
right.
Um, so it's just like they're teaching you through by just playing the game, loading it up, playing the game. You're learning how to play. You don't really get that with AAA anymore. It's very watered down. It's like bland. It's like, you ever go to a restaurant and you order iced tea and you feel like you got a cup of water
Bro, that's like
with a little
Applebee's or a fucking Olive Garden, all those cheap ass fucking chain restaurants.
Yeah, it's like the food is very bland, flavorless. That's what it's like for me. But
And it's funny you mentioned Fire Emblem because I saw Fire Emblem, like, I'm probably gonna get it because I'm a fan of Fire Emblem. But I know they're gonna have all the anime shit. Not, I'm a weeb too, so don't get upset, weebs. But it's just like, oh, it's gonna have that. I'm gonna have to, court this girl, and then now I have to do all this. And then like when you told me that, because you did more research before, and I didn't do any. You were like, no, it's not really like that. It has
mm,
gotcha mechanics, but it's not on the level of Xenoblade Chronicles,
mhm,
and it's more of like a traditional Fire Emblem. I started looking up some stuff, trying to avoid any major spoilers, and then like what your sentiments were echoed in a lot of people's articles and videos, where it's like this is more like a traditional Fire Emblem game, but it still has the fluff of like, oh, you can go fishing, you can have dinner with your party members, but it's not
mm,
forced upon you. And I read
mm,
one article recently where a guy was like, he played 8 hours, or he got through 8 chapters. So I don't know what that translates to hours, but he got through
mm,
8 chapters on hard classic mode. And he said, I ignored the entire castle feature and never felt he was at a detriment doing so. So once I read that, I was like, oh shit, oh fucking finally, an old school Fire Emblem game. All right, now I'm definitely looking forward to this. So it's like too much modern, like we all talk about quality of life and how that's really good, and we could spend hours talking about old Monster Hunter to new Monster Hunter, but sometimes when you add too much of that, too much hand holding and making things easier, it's just like, God, I'm not in kindergarten anymore. I can do this game. Trust me. That's all I ask. Just trust me. I'm not an idiot. I'm an idiot in some things, but I can work this out.
mhm.
So yeah, and that's the AAA space. It's just a lot of hand holding, and I can only have my intelligence insulted so many times before it's like, all right, I'm gonna have something
But
different.
but here's the thing: you have to know your intelligence is being insulted.
Yeah.
You have to be able to tell the difference. If you can't tell the difference, then is it really insulting? Or, you know,
If you can't tell yeah, you might just be the target audience.
then that means you are the target audience. Okay, Kong, I said a lot. Do you
Nah, I
agree or
mean,
disagree with anything I said?
you can keep going, man. It's fine. We still got 30 minutes to
Mm,
go. So, but I'll just say
mm,
this: like the main thing you brought up that like resonated the most. I think everything you said was correct, but
mm,
fun, like, is the game fun? And that's kind of the main thing. Like, um, I bought two games recently, for the Switch, and I was with a coworker because I work at a game shop. So I was with a coworker. We were doing boxes and stuff, and I saw two games for Switch. I was like, "Ooh, these look cool." And I look at the back, and I have little screenshots of gameplay. I'm like, "Okay, this might be interesting. I don't know. We'll see." I'll have to look at some video footage of like gameplay, and then that'll tell me everything I need to know. Like, just show me gameplay, show me what like the game is like, what the actual game is. I don't care about the story. I don't care about any of that stuff. Just what is the gameplay, and then you have my money. And so the two games in question were Death's Door. I think it's called what it's called, and then
mm,
what's this other one? I put it up here because I knew I would forget because it has a stupid fucking name. Um, Cuckoo's Lost Pets. So
I
it
actually
looks,
saw that.
yeah. So like this looks like a stupid fucking, like, the art style is like really shit. Like, I don't like how it looks, but the gameplay is what brought me to it. I was like, okay, this
Mm,
could be a good platformer, and apparently it has like some really deep like platforming challenges where like each character or each power up or whatever gives you certain like abilities, and the level reflects what those abilities are. So much like Crash Bandicoot 4, where the different masks give you different like abilities, like gravity shift, or the hyper spin, or the phase shifting, where you make solid objects become hollow objects, and then hollow objects become solid objects. And so the
mhm,
platforming challenges are kind of based on you having this new power and you trying to master this power. That's what this game kind of like leans to, and I'm like, oh, okay, I like that. I love the challenging aspect that those platformers can bring. So I bought them. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna buy these. And he looked at me. He was like, really? Like, these games look like shit. And I'm like, yeah, but they look fun. And
mhm,
that's why I play games in the first place. Like, I don't play games to like be fed this like incredible story or anything like that. And there's nothing wrong. Like, listen, if somebody listening to this is like, oh, I love The Last of Us for its story, I like The Last of Us for its story as well. At least the first one. So I get it, but that's not the main reason why I go and buy games or play games. Like, I do it for fun. Like, it's a fun, engaging activity. I enjoy just playing them, right? Not
mhm.
watching them, or you know pretending this is a movie. Like, it's not a movie. A movie's a movie. A book is a book, and a game is a game. Like, that's just kind of how I operate. And I guess a lot of people don't understand that, or people just don't subscribe to that way of thinking, which sucks. And as you guys were talking, I was looking at gameplay because I was going to bring up a point, but I wanted to make sure that I wasn't that I wasn't incorrect about it. But um, more action adventure platformers like Prince of Persia, right? Prince of Persia Sands of
Mm,
Time. I'm looking at gameplay of it right now. It doesn't do that weird thing where like all games do now, and this seemed to have picked up in the PS3 era onward, where like if they want you to touch this like if this is the platform that you need to grab onto, it has like the yellow marking, or like
Oh
yellow
yeah,
tape or something
yeah.
like that, or just cum stains. It's just fucking white splatters of paint or whatever, and it's like, okay, like this game doesn't do that. Like, I've been watching gameplay of it, and I'm like, yeah, I recall it not having that, but I wanted to make sure, and it doesn't have that. It's just figure it out. Like, you're an acrobat, start fucking flipping. Like, you'll get it
mhm.
eventually, and it's like this goes into like what you were saying before, where the game teaches you, the game allows you to, okay, we gave you enough hints, now apply what
Yep.
I just told you and execute it, right? and it's up to you to do so. And I can remember back in the day when I was a kid playing on Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo. Um, there's a bunch. I don't think I've rarely have I ever finished games back then. I just played them. I got as far as I can get, and that was it. Even if we're going into the PS1 era, I didn't have a memory card for the first like year of having the fucking PlayStation. So I got as far as I could get in the games, and that was it, right? Every game was a roguelike back then for me because I had no fucking memory card. I started over all the time. And it was fine because it was fun. Um, but also the games back then didn't like hold your hand for every fucking little thing. And if you feel like
Mhm.
if someone who's listening feels like, well, I need that, right? I don't have time. I need my time to be respected, blah blah blah. Well, I'll say this: you have the power of the internet at your hands. You can have a walkthrough open the whole time, and
Mhm.
you can create that hand holding experience with the power of modern technology. So that's not really an excuse. And two, maybe this game isn't meant for you to play.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
Sorry. If Elden Ring is just too damn hard, then it's just too damn hard for you. And maybe it's not meant for you to play. Or maybe you're just playing it wrong. Maybe you should try something different. Maybe you're not cut out. Maybe you don't have the ability to play melee. You
Mhm.
can't maybe don't play a fucking two-handed melee guy. Maybe just play magic or play faith or something. Try something else. Like
Mhm.
people don't want to do that, right? And I know I'm going off on like a topic about difficulty or whatever, but it is relative to like AAA games. AAA games, you mentioned it when talking about Spider-Man. Like
Yeah.
fucking, hey, I should really use this the spider drones right now. It's like, shut up, just let me
I,
play.
I mean, I always chuckled watching Esoteric stream God of War and Horizon because every time he was like, "Oh God, I know, shut up," but I'm like, "Bro, AAA gaming, this is the world now."
It's like when he was playing God of War, and I mentioned this in the chat because I was watching it at some points that like every time the enemy would attack, there would be like this blue, red, or yellow circle that would like
Yeah.
kind of appear. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I asked him, and he said, oh, it's to let me know whether to block, dodge, or counter. Like if it's a red
Wow.
circle, that's an unblockable. I can't do anything to that. But if it's like blue, I can block or I can dodge it or something to that effect. And I was like, can you turn that off? And apparently it can't be turned off. It's just a part of the game. So
Wow. That's
yeah,
so shitty.
that turned me off. Like I was just like, ooh, I
Yeah.
don't want to play this game. Like I because I feel like that's insulting my like let me figure it out. Let
Yeah.
me learn what is unblockable. I'll trust me, I'll figure it out real quick when I try to block and then I get hit anyways. Like, oh, okay, well,
But
that's
much like the
unblockable.
Souls games, where it's just like, can I parry this thing? I don't think so. Or maybe I just suck. Let me try again. And it's like, and then you find out, it's unparryable. And then maybe you actually look at like a guide on the boss, and it's like, oh, that move is actually unparryable. So I spent 3 hours trying to parry it, and I could never do it from the start. But okay, that's fine because that's just you learning as an individual. It's going, okay,
Yeah.
well, I don't know if I suck or it's unparryable, but I'm just gonna dodge it. And then you find out, okay, I could never parry it.
Right. Again, that's the game teaching you. And then when you come across a similar scenario, you'll know, okay, this is parryable, or this is blockable, or this is dodgeable. You start to. That's one of the things I loved about playing Prince of Persia, because that shit taught you the whole playthrough. The whole playthrough was you learning, okay, well, you messed up, and you have sand, go back in time and fix what you
Mm,
did.
yeah.
But one thing I can always say is that the enemies was never the type of enemies, at least the first one. The first one, I can't vouch for two. I can vouch for two a little bit, but I can't vouch for three because I didn't play three. But the first one, the enemies would not, they don't give you indication of what their attacks are going to be. They are just going to attack. I've never ever played a video game that says, "Oh, big attack is coming in. I'm glowing red," other than an MMO.
Yeah.
I've never played anything like that. So I remember watching Esoteric play the God of War, and he was going like down a cave, and something like that happened where the enemy she glowed, or she, yeah, I think it was a she glowed red. I didn't think anything of it until BlankaKong said it, and now that makes sense. And I was like, well, 2022, yeah.
Yeah, modern video gaming in a nutshell. And it's just like,
Another thing too, I feel like indie games, because they don't have that financial support, when they put a game out, they make it complete of what it is. Like
yeah.
What a
that.
concept! Do you get a complete game when you purchase it? Whoa!
It's so weird that that's a concept, and I'm like, this is crazy because, like, all right, we all have our issues. We all have different issues with Pokemon Scarlet based on how much of a fan you are, how much you're willing to tolerate. We all can come up with different issues.
Yeah.
And even then, so the trailer for what, their plans is, what's coming up next and whatever, I think was released today or yesterday. And I'm watching like people talk about it and they're like, oh my gosh, the next big update is coming out at the end of February. And I'm saying to myself, like, first and foremost, why the fuck is the update taking that long when the
Yeah.
game has this many issues? Secondly, why is there a fucking update? Why didn't the game just come out complete? I'm getting so sick of video games coming out, and it's like, well, here's the video game for $65 with all its problems, but you know what? We'll fix it 3 months down the line. And it's like,
Mm,
this is contagious with AAA games. And indie games don't come out perfect, of course. And there are indie games who do get enough financial support where they can say, okay, well, we can release the game and then later down the line we'll do updates. Like, again, Ninja Turtles just recently got an update to fix their throws. Because apparently throwing enemies in Ninja Turtles was really bad. Now it's really good. But it didn't prevent you from playing the game. It didn't prevent you from having fun. You know, Violet finally crashed on me in handheld mode. It did it 3 times in a row while
oh,
I was farming for a shiny Pokemon.
Welcome to the club.
And that does, I'll admit, it does make an impact on my point of view for a AAA title. But if this was like, say, the Ninja Turtles, I'd never read anything about it crashing. They just said those had really low priority and enemies can hit you out of them. That was a problem for the community. That's it. And I feel like it's because those indie developers, they took their time to make sure they are putting, because they want to expand, they want to get big. And to do that, they understand they have to put good content out on the market for people to buy it. AAA titles have to head up their ass, and it's just like, well, we're gonna invest $1 million to make this game. It's half complete. 6 months down the line, you'll get the complete game.
yep.
It's sad.
Because they know they only have one shot. First impressions are everything, like the saying goes. These indie guys, they don't have pedigree. They don't have like the name of Square Enix, Capcom, or Marvel or anything like that. Like it's like I'm Blinky Blonky Studio. Look, who are you? Never heard of you before. So it's like you have to make sure your game is at least memorable to the point where people would go, you know what? I remember that game. It was a fun game. It was $20. I didn't mind spending the $20 on it. If you ever make a sequel, I'll remember Plinky Plonky Studio now because I know they made a decent. I know they made a decent first game. That's how you get it. Like you don't have in these AAA games. They've relied too much on their name, their brand recognition. You could say this about any entertainment media, but since this is video games we're talking about, like
Mm.
they're like, oh, but we're like the godfather of JRPGs. Like, bro, you're slowly losing that title. I don't know how long it's gonna last, but people are starting to realize, damn, maybe Square Enix is kind of shit. And like, you're not doing anything to help it because you're just releasing bloated title after bloated title. And it's just like, yeah, but 14 though, it's like, yeah, cool. But if I don't care about MMOs or Final Fantasy, 14 doesn't mean anything to me. What else you got? We got Deal Field Chronicle. That game went on sale a month after it released. Oh, okay. So it wasn't worth the price you introduced it at. Don't look at that. Don't worry about that. So it's just like, it's like the name brand is only going so far, and that's beginning to at least wear away with me. I know there are a lot of, I'll call them, I guess, modern gamers that don't care or don't know the history of these companies and don't know what they were capable of before, like some of the landmark games that the likes of old school Capcom and Squaresoft and Ubisoft at the time released that defined gaming as a whole. They don't know about that or care. They just know about what's current, and what's current is Modern Warfare 2 that doesn't have the entire game on the disc. So that's where
It's
we
wild.
currently are. Yeah.
That's wild.
It's like $65, please. Buy some loot boxes.
So I'll just say this: if Blinky Blunky Studios becomes a thing, we want royalties. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, man, it was here first.
We said it first, but I think one of the issues is it was not really a well, it is an issue, but it's a part of human behavior. Like we've all worked jobs here before, right? And I think most people listening to this probably have worked jobs, and if you haven't, then you'll know what I'm about to say. Like you'll understand in time. Compare like the motivation and um the motivation you have day one when you work in a new job versus the motivation you have after day 100. There's a dip in motivation, and that's natural. Like that's going to happen as you get more familiar with like the processes of the job, and you start to see some of maybe the bad things about working at a particular place or whatever. That has an impact on your motivation, right? And so you're gonna maybe be in autopilot mode, or maybe you're gonna be like one of those quiet quitters, air quotes, quiet quitters, where you just do the bare minimum or whatever. Maybe I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you'll work with the same level of enthusiasm. I doubt it, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Most people, day 1 to 100, day 1 versus 100, you're going to be a very different person in terms of your motivation levels. And so the reason why I bring that up is because that's kind of what's happening with game development, right? Once certain developers or once certain companies get into this like very comfortable position of popularity and just money hoarding, and just they don't have to necessarily try anymore or try to like win you back. They already got you, right? Like Pokemon Company and Game Freak, they don't gotta try, right? They just gotta if we hit certain marks, good enough, right? Pack it up, she's ready to ship. And they know that they're gonna make millions and millions and billions of dollars because us suckers are gonna fucking buy the shit anyway, right? Because it's like, oh, maybe it'll be good. Maybe this time, like it's like an abusive relationship. Like maybe he's changed this time, right? And you come back and you get a black eye. It's like, oh well, maybe next time, right? That's kind of what it is. So me personally, and Gunner as well, have kind of moved on to just AAA gaming is maybe not for me anymore. Maybe just stick to indie gaming, right? I paid $13 for Project Zomboid. It's worth every dollar and then some. $13, and I've got 60 hours in this game, and I'm still playing it, and I probably will play it. I don't know how long, right? I can see myself. There are people apparently who have thousands of hours in this game.
I believe it.
So why would I take my hard-earned money that everybody seems to want? That the entire economy wants to take away from me, right? Because inflation's a bitch right now. Why would I give it to this company of people who don't even care about giving me what it is I should be getting for this money? Fuck them. I'm going to invest this money into the small studios and the small groups of people who are actually producing like good content, right? And I hate to say it, he might listen back to this, but he's not here now, so I'll say I think Zeto was right about the gatekeeping. Because if things were gate kept and like we didn't allow the industry to become what it is today, maybe the space would be better. Maybe not, but I think it would be. It would still have like the same heart that it used to and the same soul that it used to. Now it's like a shell of its former self. Now everybody's like included, and like these games are coming out and they're watered down to the point where we got to make sure it's accessible to everybody, right? That's really why these games are so fucking like brain dead. Is to make it accessible to like as many people as possible, and I think there's some good merit behind that, I guess, but like at the same time, it's like, listen,
Yeah, but
there are certain
let's
realities that like I have to accept, right? I'm not 6 feet 6'4" or whatever. I'm not built to be in the NBA. I'm not gonna play in the NBA. That's just what it is. So anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off. You had a point.
um I understand that if you're looking for something to be accessible, but what happened to critical thinking? Like, is that not what should be accessible to everyone? Like, you're saying that to me, I'm getting that thing where they're saying, okay, well, let's make this available to everyone, but not everyone is smart enough to complete this puzzle, for example, in the video game, or to complete this trial or this hurdle that is supposed to be difficult. Do you not like, is it not a part of society to want to be able to critically think your way out of problems? Problems happen to us every day. Like, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I don't feel like these gaming companies is doing young people, because that's majority that plays video games is the younger audience, um, is doing them any justice. Like, the reason why I feel like I can play my video games, or the reason why I feel like I can critically think through situations, is because of the type of video games that I played growing up.
Yeah, I yeah, I can get behind that because back then you had to figure out the problem for yourself, or you would just never get past the stage. And granted, some games, and I'm talking about games for like the NES and the SNES, they you can argue that some of them might have been badly designed, and I'd agree with you on that, right? Because there's no explanation for Ninja Gaiden. I'm talking about the first Ninja Gaiden, why there's just a ninja on a platform throwing infinite fucking shurikens at me. I, some fucking higher minded individual can explain the nuances of how that's fair game design. I'm just gonna call it bullshit. But at least, back then, some games were just like, hey, look, you gotta figure it out. Just figure it out. And you either figured it out or you didn't. And yeah, modern video games, like Kong said, and like you said, they gotta have everybody in it, right? Because what do these suits think? The smartest guy to the dumbest guy, they both got $60. And I want both of their $60. So if I make my game as inclusive, and I use that word quite literally, not the modern interpretation of the word, literally to include as many people as possible, yeah, you're going to get a game that appeals to no one, is watered down, and they'll still find somewhere to criticize it. They'll go, "Oh, well, you told me to use the spider drones, but you didn't use it for me." I can't help someone at that point. Like at that point, watch a movie. Cause I'm watch the Spider-Man movie and he'll know when to web swing, he'll know when to wrap somebody up in webs, and he'll know when to do a combo. There's 3 Spider-Men out there, take your pick. Just pick one. If we're gonna get to that point, just watch the Spider-Man movie.
I suppose so. I just feel like, like for an industry that's constantly getting attacked for bad things that happen, um, or that's constantly looked down upon from audiences that may not understand the hobby or the passion. I think it should bring better merit to the community that actually plays it. And making it 100% accessible for everyone, that's fine. That's completely fine to me. But making it where everyone who plays or people who play, if your game calls for that level of difficulty, of course, allow people or train your audience to be able to say, okay, well, look, let's critically think through this to get by. And that skill that you're developing from doing it, you can apply that to the real world. So at least people can say, well, I can think through problems because this video game I played, it opened my mind on how to think outside the box or just simply think.
Big period, yeah.
Just simply think, like it's wild. It's just freaking wild.
I get you, bro. I mean, thank God for the indie industry. That's a tongue twister. Or shit, I don't know. My games would be once a year. It'd be like, oh, when's the next Elden Ring like game coming out? Or when's the next when's the next competent Fire Emblem game coming out? Okay, cool. All right, see you next year. And I still like playing video games. I don't want to give up the hobby, especially people that don't really give a shit about it and just want to be included because it's cool to be in video games now. It's just like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't care about this. Stop acting like you care about it. If you want to come in, respect the community. This goes back to the gatekeeping topic. Respect the community that's already been here before you and just kind of work your way into it and find your niche in it, and plenty of people will will ask you for help. Like, some people say Monster Hunter is becoming more accessible, and it's definitely has, but I think along the way, I can confidently say, at least for me personally, Monster Hunter has lost something that used to make Monster Hunter Monster Hunter. Like, I kind of miss the old Monster Hunter games because it felt like a battle between man and beast. Now we're getting to anime levels where I'm just countering Elder Dragon. Yeah, it's flashy and cool, but it's just like, it's just surface level and it wears thin real quick.
Quick.
All of us in this group can talk about old Monster Hunter hunts that happened 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
When can we talk about the latest thing that happened in fucking Sunbreak?
Mm.
I don't, accessible doesn't always translate to memorable experiences, and things get lost when you open it up.
I'm gonna say the most memorable gaming experiences I've ever had were some of the most inaccessible, poorly designed, shit show games that I've ever played. I'm looking at you, Final Fantasy 11. Like, so I don't know, man, and maybe I'm just being real selfish, like, because I want those moments, and those moments don't necessarily mean dollars and cents to these companies. So I get it. I understand why, we're fucking screaming into the sky right now. Like, the episode like this, unfortunately, uh, even if the right people listen to it, they're not gonna care. They're like, whatever. You and your little opinions don't mean anything to me. And that's fine.
No, that's fine. Yeah,
That's fine. Like, I'm gonna find my outlet. I'm gonna find a different way, but it sucks, dude. It just sucks.
no, there is
So
something depressing about seeing a series that you grew up with, um, kind of like open its doors to new fans, and when you were, kind of um before you were like, oh man, I love more. Yeah, oh, more people coming into Monster Hunter means we're gonna get more Monster Hunter games. Oh shit, Monster Hunter's on the PlayStation 4 now and not the DS. Oh, that means it's gonna look better. Oh, we're gonna have some epic fights. And while that's
that's all
true,
true. Yeah, that all came true.
yeah, you lose something along the way. And now
Definitely
look at
do.
Sunbreak. Like,
And so I
Sunbreak's a
don't think I don't
fun.
think Sunbreak is bad at all. I think it's a
No.
fantastic expansion, but it did, I don't know, it did lose something. It's hard to put my finger on it. Like, I have had no real itch to go back to it, even though there's been new content and stuff.
Yeah, same.
I
Yeah.
have, like, I know it's there, and I'm like, the content will be there. I'll get to it when I get to it, but I'm not like the same itch that I had back then is not there anymore. Maybe I just kind of maybe I'm Monster Hunter out. I don't know. But to take the topic back to indie and AAA, like yeah, I've been having thoughts as to like what I'm gonna buy this year. Like I did pre-order the RE4 collector's edition, and I'm thinking I'm not gonna pull the trigger on that anymore. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do it. And I still want the game, but I don't know if blowing almost $300 on a statue is
Oh, oh my goodness. Wow.
on a statue of like something that's not even like that cool. Like Leon's cool and all, but it's like, do I need to
I
spend
mean,
$300 on a this dude? It's like,
I mean,
uh,
that's why I built Gunpla, but that's a whole nother topic. But
I have a bunch of statues, like, but they're all giant dragons with giant wings, and like it's all like it's crazy, right? It's like, all right, it's not something you see every day, so it's like, all right, cool, that makes sense.
man with gun.
But it's like Leon, like he's alright, you know.
Yeah.
I got Joe, but I got like a Chinese bootleg of her. So A, I spent less, and B, it's a chick, so it's like it's
Hey, no
more,
one's gonna.
more appealing to look at. Sorry,
Not,
but
not wrong.
so I'm thinking of like applying that rule that I think I mentioned it on last week's episode. Waiting a year before I get a game. I might just do that. I might just give it.
Yep.
I might give it a year before I actually pick it up. It'll be cheaper. It'll be more complete. Um, and it'll be better for my individual experience anyway. So it's like it only makes sense to wait.
To
Um,
quote Mr. Zeta Kaiser, he's been doing that for a hot minute, so he would be like, "Yep, yeah," because and he's been proven right. A lot of these games, like I said previously, they aren't worth their asking price. Um, you know, PC bros will probably laugh at us, but games are becoming more expensive now. Now Microsoft has started charging seventy
what did you
dollars.
say? Penny Bros?
Oh, PC bros, PC
PC
bros.
Bros. Oh, okay, I was like,
Yeah,
what the hell did he say? My bad.
they'll laugh at us because like, haha, you're paying $70 for games. And it's like, but no, I'm not. But you know, a lot of these games are becoming $70. And it's just like, would you for your arguing about Resident Evil 4? It's like, am I gonna get another Resident Evil 3? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, another topic. I can't trust these trailers anymore because obviously they're gonna, much like social media, they're gonna paint everything in a positive light. And you know, much like your theoretical turbulent wedding, I can only see the good things on a trailer. I don't see any of the bad things because obviously you're not gonna show me that. So I sympathize with you, probably putting that 300 towards something else or nothing else because like you said, the statue is nice, but it's just a statue. And two, Resident Evil might be, to personally or critically, might be shit. We don't. I mean, I can't say, but it might. It just might.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that, man. It's kind of depressing, but it is what it is, and it's a part of growing up, right? Like you just kind of you got to make better financial decisions, and um, the industry isn't doing itself any favors by um undercutting production and trying to force these games out before they're ready. So
Yeah.
anyway, with that being said, for those listening, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Hope this was an enjoyable episode of the LogiCast for you. Let us know down below what you think. Put a comment down if you're like more of an indie guy, or if you're more of a AAA guy, or if you're both. Right? Like I know there are gamers out there who subscribe to both. There are some people who hate indie games because the graphics aren't up to par or whatever. Like I know these people exist, right? So and
Yeah.
that's fine. Like you're into what you're into. These are all just opinions at the end of the day. So let us know down below. Give the video a like or a dislike. Subscribe for more content. We do a podcast every week. We publish it every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. So subscribe if you're interested in hearing more opinions or more conversations like this. Podcasts usually last like an hour or so. We also run a Discord Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So all those links will be in the description down below. So check that out if you're interested. And we also produce other videos like 2-minute review videos. We have long form content, long form gameplay content as well. Mr. Esoteric, who isn't presently here, he does stream on the main channel on Twitch. So that's Logical Gamers TV on Twitch. And I think that's it. So we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Till next time.